There are so many myths surrounding this situation. The first myth is that our roads and bridges are crumbling. That's not really entirely true. We do need to maintain our transportation infrastructure. But the idea that Governor Malloy would come before us 5 or 6 years ago and tell us we need to spend $100 billion fixing our transportation infrastructure, and then just a few years later, we elect Governor Lamont, and he comes and he says, well, it's only $25 billion. Well, what happened? That we only need a quarter of what we did before. And a few weeks after that, it was $21 billion. And I don't know what the new plan is, but it's down to $19 billion or 18.5. That should tell you everything you need to know, that these numbers are completely, utterly made up. The fact is that the state of Connecticut brings in a tremendous amount of money to fix our transportation infrastructure right now. We get $750 million every year from the federal government. That money goes into the Special Transportation Fund, where it is intended to be used, as people would assume, to fix our roads and bridges, maintain our transportation infrastructure, and make improvements. We also have a gas tax. We have multiple gas taxes. In fact, we have a gas tax that no other state has. And that gas tax generates even more money than the tolls on the Mass Turnpike, a state that has twice our population. So we have plenty of money. The problem is that that billion or more dollars that goes into the Special Transportation Fund is not used for that purpose. They pay for all kinds of other things out of that fund, not including the diversions that you've probably heard of in the press. They use that to pay salaries for DOT and DMV employees, things that in almost every other case are paid out of the general fund. So the money is not going where it's supposed to be going. That's the number one problem, and that's what we should be addressing. As far as tolls, we would get very little revenue from out of state compared to in-state. That's another thing. And the purpose of tolls, by the way, for the governor and his friends is tolls. It's not revenue and it's not transportation infrastructure. What it is an opportunity to hand out some contracts to people to build tolls, to keep his friends that put him in office very, very happy. The amount of money that we would receive ultimately at the end of the day is so diminished by the cost. Think about it. You're going to take years to put up these tolls. There's an infrastructure cost to putting up the tolls, and then the cost of getting the money, sending the bills out and getting it back. I mean, we're going to get 20 cents on a dollar for the tolls. If you really needed revenue, there are so many other ways to get it. I'm not encouraging getting revenue, because I will make the point that when I got elected in 2011, the state budget was $17 billion, including the Medicaid funding, which is now carved out of the budget. Today it's $22 billion. If you add the Medicaid back in, it's like 26. And the state takes in more money every year than the year before. There is not a lack of revenue, there's a lack of priorities.
We have another question.